First, tonight on the second day of the offensive against Colonel Gaddafi, coalition aircraft are flying over Libyan skies, taking on the dictator's men. As the attacks continue, the US top military man today said their aim isn't to see Gaddafi go, and confirmed the forces have managed to enforce a no-fly zone over the country to stop Gaddafi from bombing his own people, now up in arms against him. The dictator, however, remains defiant, promising a long war. India has said it regrets the airstrikes and asked for an end to the violence. But will this view have any takers? Nupur Tiwari reports. NATO's fighter jets heading to Libya for the second day from bases in Europe. The US Chief Military Officer Admiral Mike Mullen says they've established a no-fly zone over Libya, preventing Colonel Gaddafi from aerial bombing his own people.
Interestingly, Mullen says that the goals of this military campaign are limited, and it's not about seeing Gaddafi go. But the leaders of the coalition forces are careful in balancing out this military goal with political objectives.
We want Libyans to be able to determine their own future. We can't, from this country, as I and the Prime Minister have said many times, see a future for Libya which has Colonel Gaddafi staying there. But then I doubt that the vast majority of the people of Libya can see that either.
Gaddafi, however, continues to sound defiant, amidst reports that his government will distribute weapons to more than 1 million men and women in the next few hours. Libya's population is 6.5 million.
You are with the devil, and the party of the devil will be defeated. This attack against us in order to steal and take our wealth and our petrol, that will not be allowed as easily, because you come into our land. You're going to fight us in our land. The innocent will prevail, and they will win, and they will victor.
But the US and other countries behind the action are standing firm, saying the strikes are justified.
We cannot stand idly by when a tyrant tells his people that there will be no mercy, and his forces step up their assaults on cities like Benghazi and Misrata, where innocent men and women face brutality and death at the hands of their own government.
India, which abstained from the UN vote authorizing action today, said it regrets the airstrikes that are taking place and that the violence is of grave concern, and wants all parties to abjure the use of force. In fact, it's the casualties which could complicate NATO's campaign. Gaddafi's spokesperson claims coalition forces are killing civilians, saying 50 were killed and 150 injured. Coalition forces have so far bombed or attacked several cities with cruise missiles along the Mediterranean: Zawara, Tripoli, Mitiga, Misrata, Sarait and Benghazi. Tripoli remains under government control. Gaddafi forces are trying to fight their way into Benghazi. Rebels have also been defeated in the central towns of Bin Jawad, Ras Lanouf and Brega in the last 2 weeks. Only the towns to the east of Benghazi, including Baida, Derna and Tobruk near the border with Egypt, remain under rebel control. The coalition fighter jets flying over the Libyan airspace have been welcomed by the rebels in Benghazi, who are hoping to see the end of Gaddafi's regime soon. With Nupur Tiwari in Paris, Natasha Jog, NDTV. And Nupur Tiwari joining us this evening from Paris. Remember, France opened the first round of strikes and took the lead in pushing for the no-fly zone. Nupur, thanks very much for joining us. There are reports that no-fly zone almost in place. Is there a sense now that this could soon be over?
From initial reports, it does seem that the international forces have managed to establish at least a partial no-fly zone. The idea was to destroy Gaddafi's ability to strike down the fighter jets of the international coalition force, and then afterwards to ensure that he doesn't attack his own people. But all of that is not really being seen as much of a challenge. They should be easily able to take out whatever little is left of his military defenses. It's being said that Gaddafi's air force, his Marine force are not really a match to the forces of some of the world's biggest military powers coming together against him. What could, of course, be a challenge would be his presence on the ground, his ability to build human shields around him. And also don't forget that he had huge parts of Libya still under his control just about 2 days ago. So that could take long. And of course, the international forces have also said that this is a long-term commitment. So if they're going to stick around till a regime change happens, it could take weeks, it could take months. It's really a little bit too early to say.
Right, we're not looking at endgame of any of this action, any of this offensive just yet, Nupur. But India is, of course, calling for restraint, calling for an end to all this violence that we've been seeing. Is anyone really listening?
Well, realistically speaking, the sheer scale of forces that have been mobilized, it's highly unlikely that at this stage calls for stopping violence would mean stopping airstrikes. Because if you remember, stopping violence for the coalition forces means stopping Gaddafi from attacking his own people. So it's really a totally different perspective, and I'm afraid India's calls for stopping violence are just likely to be brushed aside as comments being made by countries like Russia and China as well, who abstained from the UN vote.